Hello, welcome to the Student Employee Training Module on Library Confidentiality. We'll be covering important issues concerning your rights as a student under the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act known as FERPA. This training will also inform you of your responsibilities for protecting library information that you have access to as a student employee. Let's start by learning the definition of FERPA. FERPA is a federal law that protects the privacy of student education records. Parents and eligible students have the right to take the following actions. 1. Inspect and review the student education records maintained by the school. 2. Request that a school correct records they believe to be inaccurate or misleading. 3. Stop the release of personally identifiable information. And 4. Get a copy of the institution's policy concerning access to educational records. What are student educational records? They are records that are maintained by SUNY Plattsburgh and include a student's name or students' names on them. Educational records include files, documents, and materials in any medium that contain information directly related to students and from which students can be individually identified. Any medium means that the records can be electronic, handwritten, print, tapes, film, microfilm, or microfiche. Common examples include these. In addition to FERPA, New York State law further protects the records of library users. This law states that library records shall be confidential and shall not be disclosed except to the extent necessary for the proper operation of the library or upon request or consent of the user or pursuant to subpoena, court order, or where otherwise required by statute. The most important things to keep in mind are that student educational records are confidential. They may not be released without the written consent of the student. Any student wishing to provide such consent must begin by contacting the registrar's office, which is responsible for the overall institutional compliance with FERPA. You have access to protected, confidential information only for legitimate use for your completion of your responsibilities as an employee. Your access to protected information is on a need-to-know basis only. Now, let's consider some best practices that will help you do your job. First, always ask yourself, is this confidential information? In other words, is this information available to me because I work here? If so, it should not be used for anything other than to carry out your job duties. If you find documents or other materials in library public areas that contain patrons' information, take them immediately to a library supervisor. Secondly, consider whether information you are viewing can also be seen by non-employees. Here are some actions you can take to avoid that. You can angle your screen away from visitors when you're working at the service desk. Be aware of what is on your screen and be sure patrons can't view other patrons' information. After every transaction, clear your screen. This action not only helps to protect patron privacy, but it also makes you more efficient. Close extra tabs and log out of any personal accounts you don't want others to have access to when you leave your work area. And when in doubt, ask a supervisor. You want to be helpful and provide patrons with the information they request. But sometimes it's inappropriate to do so even if the request seems innocent or it's for someone's benefit. Always call on a supervisor when you're unsure, even if the issue involves the police. Now, let's review some questions about the best way to handle several library situations involving confidentiality and privacy. Go online to this link to get started. Be sure to read each scenario carefully. Choose the best answer. If you're unsuccessful, read the scenario again and try another answer. Remember, many times, issues of confidentiality and privacy fall within a gray area, so the subject requires some careful thought. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, speak with a library supervisor, and they will be happy to help.